Unit 7 using trig formulas, and lesson 7.1 is specifically about the double angle formula. And so I'm going to give you a formula sheet. You don't have to memorize these formulas, but you can use that sheet on everything when you take a test or a quiz. Okay, so what we're trying to do is find cosine of double or 2 times the angle without knowing what the angle is. But what we're given is some kind of trig ratio. So in this case, we're given a cosine ratio, and we want to find cosine of 2 theta. So cosine of 2 theta actually has 2 different formulas, one that includes using cosine, one that uses sine. So in this particular case, since we're given cosine, we're going to use this one. And so I'll go ahead and write it again so that we have it here. Okay, so I'll have 2 times, remember that this cosine squared of theta just means cosine of your angle squared, and they're telling us that that is 20 over 29. And then minus 1. So really, honestly, I would just do this all in a calculator. So it's taking 2 times 20 over 29 squared minus 1. You always get these weird decimals, but when I hit math, enter, it'll turn it into a fraction. And so what cosine of 2 theta really equals is negative 41 over 841. And so you might be thinking, well, it said that theta is a positive acute angle. Yes, so our angle is somewhere here in quadrant 1. But if we're doubling this angle, it might put it over here in quadrant 2, where cosine is negative, since we're going x values of negative. So that does make sense. All right, and then number 2, we're still finding cosine of double the angle. So we're going to use one of these formulas, but this time we're given sines ratio of opposite over hypotenuse. And so we're going to use this formula, 1 minus 2 times sine squared. And our sine of theta is 35 over 37. So it'd be 1 minus 2 times 35 over 37 squared. And I just put it on my calculator. Turn it into a fraction, and simplified would be negative 1081 over 1369. And so again, it's okay to get a negative ratio because this might be running over into quadrant 2. And that's all for those. Now we're going to be finding sine of double an angle without knowing what that angle is. We are given cosine, and there's only one formula for this. So I'm going to have to actually know sine ratio and cosine. I only have cosine. So you're going to have to think in this ratio, this is my adjacent leg over my hypotenuse. But in a sine ratio, I need to know the opposite compared to its hypotenuse. And so I know the hypotenuse is 29. So I know in my sine angle, I'm getting something over 29. I just don't know the opposite. It might also help to draw the triangle. We know it's in quadrant 1, where we have adjacent would be this x value. Hypotenuse is here. I don't know this y. So I'm going to have to do Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. So it'd be 21 squared plus some y squared equals 29 squared. And we should be really good at Pythagorean theorem now. So I'll do 29 squared minus 21 squared is 400. But then to get y by itself, I would have to square root that, which I know is 20. And that is my opposite. Okay, so my sine ratio is really 20 over 29. So to find sine of 2 times my angle, it's 2 times my sine ratio times my cosine ratio, which they gave to me. And again, you could do this by hand, or I just put it on your calculator. So it's 2 times 20 over 29 times 21 over 29. As a fraction, that gets 840 over 841. All right, and then number 4, the only thing that's different is they're giving us sine this time instead of cosine, but we're still asked to find sine of double the angle. So this is my opposite leg over my hypotenuse. So to find the cosine ratio, I'm going to need adjacent over hypotenuse. And so I already know the hypotenuse is 53. I'm just going to have to find the adjacent. And so I'll have my leg squared plus, maybe I'll use x this time because that's the adjacent leg is really your x value, equals 53 squared. And you should get that x is 45. And so that's my adjacent. So that would be my cosine ratio. Okay, so then I'm going to do 2 times sine times cosine's ratio. And just do it on your calculator. And you should get 2,520 over 2,809. And that is your answer.